You clicked on this video because you want to learn a language. Start with Duolingo. I'll explain why. My name is Jackson from Let's Learn Languages. Let's get started. In order to understand why Duolingo is such a huge asset in language learning, we need to identify what the biggest challenge of language learning is. And surprisingly, it's not actually learning the language. When you decide you want to learn a foreign language, the hardest part is starting. If you are able to study frequently and have passion for the language, the story basically writes itself. But up until that point, it is very uncertain whether or not you'll follow through with your commitment. Now, I believe that Duolingo solves this issue by gamifying language learning. Duolingo helps you learn languages through the power of competition. Competition has been shown to improve performance, at least according to a study done in 2020 by Ives and his colleagues. In order to examine the effects of competition on performance, Ives took a bunch of people and divided them up into two equal groups based on athletic ability. Both teams had to do a 40-yard sprint and a high jump. However, only one group vied for the highest jump and competed against one another in the 40-yard dash. And I can already hear the skeptics saying, yeah, that's all physical activity. What about memorization? How does competition affect memorization? In 2015, two scholars decided to test exactly this. They took two groups of people, one of which were competing against one another and the other were not. And the task was to memorize a bunch of shapes and colors. What ended up happening is that the group that did not compete against one another did better at memorizing than the group that did compete against one another. Now, I can already see the skeptics pointing at me and laughing because they just won the argument, but they actually didn't. And they didn't win the argument because Duolingo should actually never be used to memorize information. Duolingo should never be used as a study tool. And if this information is new, shocking, confusing to you, don't worry, that's perfectly normal. I have a video explaining it all, so if you're interested, feel free to click the link. Anyways, back to the effects of competition on performance. Duolingo has a feature where they pit players against each other with the goal, get the most XP. They divide people up into ranks with the lowest rank earning the least amount of XP and vice versa. Because you are competing with one another, you will naturally want to progress and rise through the ranks. It's almost as like you just started playing Valorant. You see yourself in the leaderboards, you're sitting in bronze, you're like, wow, I really want to get to silver. So you play, you grind, you get better, and then you get to silver. And then you're like, silver is kind of cool, but what I really want is gold. And then the cycle just continues over and over until eventually you're at the highest level and you're like, wow, I just wasted 100 hours of my life playing Valorant. Now what? And it's the same concept with Duolingo. You're just on Duolingo doing your thing, getting your XP, and then you realize, if I get 30 more XP, I can get on to the next league. So then you play your 2 or 3 lessons or whatever to get your XP, and then you're like, yeah, now I'm at the next level. What's the next level? And then hopefully over time, you just soak in the language, and then you start to realize, wow, this language is pretty cool. Maybe I should start learning this on my own. Now, this overarching concept is something that Duolingo does particularly well, which is what inspired me to make this video. Hopefully you'll feel the same pull to rise the ranks like I did. TLDR, a ranking system makes you want to spend more time on the app. Hopefully it will increase your motivation to learn a language and your familiarity with the language. I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but for me, whenever I'm competing with a friend, I get extra competitive. And I think it's because my pride is on the line. Duolingo is great for this because it allows you to connect with your friends and see their stats. So you get to see their total XP, the league that they're in, and the streak that they hold. All of which are great for increasing time spent on the app. Except streak. One of the most important aspects of learning a language is studying as frequently and as consistently as you possibly can. And thankfully, a streak on Duolingo facilitates this. On Duolingo, a streak is a marker of status, almost like how big your house is, or how nice of clothes you wear, or how nice your car is, or whatnot, whatever people do nowadays, I guess. So if you want people to think you're cool, then just keep a high streak on Duolingo. I always like running into people who have a high streak on Duolingo on the leaderboards. I think that's pretty cool. I think it's cool that they're motivated enough to keep on practicing every single day, even if it is only on Duolingo. Along with that, it makes me want to continue practicing on Duolingo and in other forms just to keep my streak high and just to continue learning the language. It's also important to mention that Duolingo can send you notifications to keep your streak going. That way, when you're not as passionate about the language and don't have the motivation to study every day, you'll still be reminded like, hey, I need to do this. Let me at least take the 3 minutes out of my day and keep my streak. And hopefully you do this enough times and you start to grow to love the language more and more until you'd want to study on your own. Building the habit of practicing every single day is such an invaluable tool when learning a language, so starting this off early as possible is extremely important. TLDR, the existence of a streak motivates you to study every day, which catalyzes familiarity with the language and thus passion. So, as mentioned before, the whole point of Duolingo is to familiarize yourself with the language. And if anybody has studied a language on their own without using an app, they know that the information is extremely daunting. It is extremely overwhelming. Anytime you're given a large amount of stimuli, your brain will immediately enter fight or flight mode. The larger the stimulus, the more likely your brain is to get the heck out of there. And if you don't believe me, be creative with me for a moment. Imagine you are sitting in a room and 3 pieces of paper are given to you. You are asked to decode each piece of paper. On the first paper, there is Katy Perry's Roar, except an X is at the beginning of every single word and a Y follows every single word. Pretty easy to figure out. The second paper is just a jumble of Roman characters. And the third paper is written in Sanskrit. Which one would you want to solve first? Which one would you feel the most uncomfortable solving? I feel like the answer is pretty obvious to me, but maybe you want to jump right into the Sanskrit puzzle. I don't know, but I certainly would want to start off with the ones that I know I could solve. Point being, learning a language is a very daunting task. There's a lot of information out there, and it can be really difficult. But thankfully, Duolingo makes this really easy for you. What this means is that you'll feel like you're getting the hang of it much sooner than if you started on your own. Is this true? Absolutely not. But that's not the point. The point isn't to learn a language using Duolingo, it's to familiarize yourself with it enough to get you to the point where you want to learn it on your own, using methods other than Duolingo. And feeling like you're right most, but not all of the time, will definitely do this. It's basically like a game you play with yourself. If you get a question wrong, you lose. If you get it right, you win. And with Duolingo's ease of play, who would ever want to stop winning? And so you find yourself spending more time on the app, and more time with the language. Soon, in theory, you will find yourself becoming more and more attracted to the language, wanting to learn more and more about it without the help of Duolingo. TLDR, Duolingo is easy, which means that it's fun, which means that you will want to learn the language further, and hopefully your chances of sticking it out will be higher than if you had never used Duolingo in the first place. And also, Duolingo is free. You don't have to pay a dime if you don't want to. No monetary commitment is great for a beginner. And so those are my 4 tips. I want to thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you hearing what I had to say, and I hope you have a great day today and tomorrow, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next video. Much love. Ciao, ciao.